5.1, rebounds at 5.2. How do he and Giannis complement each other?
I think very well because he's not a ball-dominant player, and so it helps when you're a best player because most best players are ball-dominant. And so he's a complementary piece in that he can catch it, score it off the catch. He can create when needed. He can play in space. I think he's terrific. I got to say, I think he had a better year than I thought he would have a season ago. And Kevin was talking about, how good was he in the postseason last year? I mean, he was incredible. And so I do think he is proving to be capable of being a part of that 1-2 punch with Giannis. So they're fine in those areas. But to Kevin's point, they need elevation across the board in those other areas. They're fine with those two.
I think he really benefited from, they put the top defender Antetokounmpo all the time. And now you're another wing guy. He had some defenders on him. He was much bigger than, like in that Celtics series, he just took those guys in the mid-post. I didn't know he had that kind of mid-post game. Little turnaround fadeaway, little face-up, little shot. He was so effective there. And all of a sudden you start saying, boy, I can see that. I mean, how many teams have really legit defenders at the wing spots all the way through? There's usually a couple guys that aren't very good defenders there, and he takes advantage of those guys. So Middleton's playing with the right guy in Antetokounmpo because Antetokounmpo draws so much attention. He's got ability, and his little post-up, little mid-range game there really impressed me.
I want to go back to the center conversation that we've touched on a little bit here.
I don't want to go back.
In terms of, but, Brook Lopez is who he is in the NBA. He's a terrific shooter for a 7-footer. He's limited defensively, but like we talked about, Coach Bud wants all 5 guys on the court to be able to shoot, and Lopez can do that.
No, he can shoot it. And listen, in essence, he signed a deal for a minimum contract at this stage of his career. So it's a good value to have a guy who's been an all-star, who's been the best player on a playoff team on that roster. And it is an upgrade in some respects. But overall, that position, John Henson has been solid. But in order for you to compete and contend in the Eastern Conference, you've got to elevate those positions. If you look at the top teams, you look at what Toronto's got going on their front line, you look at Boston, that's who they're competing against. You look at what Washington has done in this past offseason. So in order for them to get into that upper tier, they're going to have to improve across the board in that center position, not just offensively, but at times defensively, because you got to be able to guard space. And that's going to be an issue for Lopez. Even Henson struggles with that against dynamic perimeter players when he gets switched out on them. So they're going to have some questions and some concerns that they're going to have to address here in the preseason.
Thon Maker might be a guy that they can plug in there. He can make some shots. He can spread the floor like Budenholzer likes as a coach. But he also, he can block shots and he can get down in the stance and move his feet. So I think that he might be a guy that as the season progresses, starts taking some of that center spot. And, if that happens and he matures and gets better, that's going to just elevate their team overall because I agree with you. I think in today's game, 5 guys that can shoot and 5 guys that can switch seem to be what everybody's doing.
Thon Maker, a lottery pick a couple of years ago. We'll see how he figures into the plans. And coming up, we're going to take a look at more of Giannis's supporting cast, including contract year point guard Eric Bledsoe. So don't go anywhere. This is the Bucks preview show on NBA TV.
That's a man's jam. Giannis it down. Woo-hoo, man, was he flying high. Yes. And he has left his mark. Giannis trailing the lob. And Giannis in the open floor. With the stylish finish.
Welcome back to the Bucks preview show. Rick Kamla, Greg Anthony, and Kevin McHale. And let's break down Giannis Antetokounmpo here on the court. How do the Bucks get him going more downhill, guys?
Well, Kevin, you want to talk a little bit about him not having the basketball. Right. We know how good he is with it, but the next level for him in terms of development is his ability to not have it and still find ways to score.
In the break, the guy's unguardable. He did some things last year in the playoffs that I literally went, oh, my God. I mean, he just dunking and crazy, but he's going to have to learn how to play off the ball. But this will allow Bledsoe and some of these other guys to play a little bit better. So let's just run through a little screen and roll. Greg, start over here with the ball. You're guarding me, okay? So now what happens a lot of times what happens is that I'm going to set the screen and roll. You're just going to show a hair, just to slow Greg down. So as soon as Greg comes off, and now if he throws back to me right here, now I'm going downhill because you're in no man's land. Mm-hmm. Corners filled, corners filled, slot is filled, shooter who's going to circle behind me after he throws back. But I'm coming downhill now. Someone's got to make a decision. So as I get in here, you fill from the strong side corner, boom. You come from the weak side corner, boom. And you don't get there early. He's like Dr. J in a way.
Yeah.
If you don't get there early, he gets to his launching pad, just duck your head.
So where's the launching pad for Giannis?
Let me tell you something.
It's about right there.
Launching pad for most mortals are about right here, you know. His launching pad is way out here. So
really
honestly,
is.
As you're a defender, take the ball right here. And you're going to be Giannis, even though that's a really stretch, Kamla.
Big stretch.
Here's the thing. As you're driving, I got to leave now when you're there. And I've got to try to get to here and take a charge because you're not blocking that guy's shot. With most players, as a big, you can hang here and make all your decisions late. I remember the first time I hung here on Dr. J and made my decision late, I was wearing the ball as he just tapped it on me. And that's the same thing that Antetokounmpo gives you. He makes you make decisions as a rotating big so much earlier. But get him off the ball more, get him in pick and rolls, and then what's going to happen, you get those guys shooting, so you hug up on me on the pick and roll and don't want to leave my body, he's going to be wide open. I set a good screen. It's the same thing. If you hug up on me now, I've split it a couple of times. You just stay on me. I set a screen here. You're not helping at all. Greg comes off. He's wide open. He can turn the corner. He can make a shot. So getting him setting screens, getting him setting wide pin downs, getting him off the ball in movement should be great for him.
And the other thing, too, is in today's game, we see a lot of switching, 1 through 5. And, again, you're going to create two mismatches, right? Eric Bledsoe's dynamic enough with the basketball to get by people. If I got switches where we're running that same pick and roll, and now when he sets that screen, if you jump out on me, right, you're going to jump out on the other side. You're going to come out that way.
There you go.
When you jump up, first thing that we got a quick dive with a mismatch there. We can cross-court it.
Yeah.
He can go direct post. Or I can take advantage of this play and break down that big.
Yeah.
I can get in the paint, force help. And again, I got Giannis down there.
Yeah.
I got corner opposite. I got a lot of different things. I just think that's an area where you're going to see him utilized a lot more in terms of Giannis, is putting him in screen actions off the ball. If he's setting pin downs, if he's setting flares where you got to honor, if he's set good screens, he's going to create a lot of opportunities when he can catch and shoot. And that's another area, too, Kev. If he improves the jump shot to the point where he's money from 17 feet, where you got to honor it, that guy could become the most unguardable player in the NBA. And
then one other thing to look at, Middleton can just stroke it. You're not leaving Middleton in these corners. Mm-hmm. So as all this stuff's happening, Greg's got the ball. He's Bledsoe coming off here. I'm Antetokounmpo. I'm rolling. Middleton's guys over here saying, you know what? I'm not leaving this guy, so I'm staying here. So all of a sudden, the court gets so much bigger when you have a really good shooter on one side. You have ball handlers. You got divers. I just think he's an interesting player that you can do a lot of stuff with.
I love it. Can't wait to watch it. And we're going to give you a look right now at the Bucks' projected depth chart. And you will see two key free agent additions in the aforementioned Centerbrook Lopez and Coach Bud fave Ersan Ilyasova. They drafted MOP of the Final Four, Dante DiVincenzo, at 17 overall. But let's focus on a couple of guards, starting with Malcolm Brogdon, who can play a variety of positions. What role do you see him playing on the Bucks this season?
I think somewhat similar to what he was a year ago. I think he's going to potentially back up the 1 and the 2. Listen, I thought he showed improvement from a year ago. He's going to have to continue to do that. He's going to have to defend those two positions, give them stability coming off that bench, and improve their depth. I think his growth is going to be important. And a lot of their development as a group is going to come, as you heard Kevin talk about, from the growth of those young players. Thon Maker, is he ready to be a part of a rotation full time now? That's going to be big. Brogdon, can he take another step from where he's gone the last 2 seasons? And the other big one is going to be Ilyasova. I really think he's going to be important because why? He can shoot the basketball. He makes the floor bigger. That was another concern for this Bucks team a season ago. I think we're going to see him play faster, and I think the court's going to be bigger because of what Budenholzer is going to try to implement from an offensive scheme standpoint.
Coach, I want to ask you about
one quick thing on Brogdon. He plays the game up here. He doesn't play it with his feet. He's not a great athlete. He just is a really high IQ player, knows how to play. And when you get a lot of movement and you get a lot of different cuts and reads, that's where he becomes so important. He's going to be able to see what's happening a step ahead. And I really like the kid. He can put the ball on the floor. He can find people. So I think Brogdon's going to be a big part of this. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all good. Is this Eric Bledsoe's final season in Milwaukee? Like, is he a good fit with Giannis? Are they looking long long term with him, or might he be moved before the deadline?
I want to see him play with Coach Budenholzer, putting him in situations just to succeed and play well. I wouldn't give up on him just yet because he's got some dynamic to him. But I'll tell you one thing: Rozier last year in the playoffs, he got up into him and he did a great job. You can't afford to have your second best player almost taken out of a series by one defender like it was last year.
I would say this: think about what Budenholzer did with Jeff Teague. Played his best basketball for him. Dennis Schroeder played his best basketball for him. I think that he could have a similar impact on Eric Bledsoe's game if somehow he can get him to be a little bit better and quicker with his decision making and a little bit more consistent with his shot selection. People get caught up in your shooting percentage.
Yeah.
Your ability to take good shots is every bit as important as your ability to make them.
And you almost called him Drew Bledsoe.
I sure did.
I know.
I sure did.
That
was a Boston.
Wow, that was a whole nother story.
We're back with a social moment from over the summer, and it's Giannis Antetokounmpo training by boxing. Mac, did you ever in your Hall of Fame career train by throwing punches?
I didn't. Well, you're throwing punches, yeah, but not boxing. Training boxing. My neighbor used to put on boxing gloves and beat the hell out of me. It hurts when you get hit with a boxing glove. He would put his gloves on and say it's not going to hurt. It does hurt.
I tell you, I've heard of guys in boxing with reach.
Yeah,
but that's a whole nother level right there. He could hit you from across the ring.
Yeah, across the block.
Yeah.
So, but Canelo and Triple G, not really fearing the deer here, right? Hey, here are the starters with more on the Greek Freak.
Skeets and Lee here from the starters with your next point about the Milwaukee Bucks. True or false? Giannis, the Greek Freak, is the best player in the East.
True. Yeah, with LeBron.
Wow, that didn't take you long.
No, with LeBron moving to the Los Angeles Lakers, of course, that opens it up. But if you look at the Eastern Conference, the other players who are in contention, I think it's Joel Embiid, maybe Kawhi Leonard. But Kawhi missed all of last season, so we don't know what we're going to see. But Giannis last year was in the MVP conversation pretty much all season long. He was just an incredible player at both ends of the floor. And this year he has to take another step, which I think he's ready to do. So I think he is the best player in the Eastern Conference. Certainly if we were having a draft, I would pick him as my first pick.
Yeah, look at the numbers there last season. 27 and 10,
yeah.
And he's improved every year. I mean, we could be looking at a guy averaging something like 30 and maybe 11 or 10. And you got Coach Mike Budenholzer coming in here. They brought in some shooters in Ilyasova and Brook Lopez, maybe to get more three-point shots. They didn't shoot a lot of threes last year, so maybe it opens up the floor a little bit and gives Giannis even more room to operate and take one step and then dunk on somebody.
Well, if you look at how they lost to the Celtics in the playoffs last year as well, Giannis often got caught inside when the team would collapse on him, and he didn't have those guys to pass it to shoot, knock down those three-pointers. Now, Giannis has to learn to get rid of the ball earlier, but he also has to be able to throw it to guys who he knows can hit down those threes consistently. So it's going to be an interesting year for the Milwaukee Bucks. We expect them to finish, I think, no worse than top 4 in the Eastern Conference.
I was going to say, would it be a disappointing season if the Bucks don't flirt with 50 wins and at least win a playoff series?
Absolutely,
It's been a long time. You think it would be bad?
I think the minimum goal for them is finishing 4th in the Eastern Conference. Absolutely minimum. And really, they should be probably looking at 1 or 2.
All right, let's hear from you guys. Is Giannis the best player in the Eastern Conference now, like Lee said, that LeBron has headed to the Lakers? Let us know on Twitter at #TheStarters.
Great stuff, guys. And still to come on the Bucks Preview Show, we asked the question, can the Bucks go deep in the playoffs in their new